Another center has reopened, but both are cited for problems that led to the suspension of services at each location. Brendan Dixon has that story.
The State Department of Health and Human Service confirmed the physician at the Baker Clinic for Women in Durham voluntarily surrendered his license effective last week. The clinic already had closed its doors in early July after inspectors said the clinic failed to perform quality control testing on patients who received certain blood testing. The Asheville Surgery Center FemCare opened its doors again late last week after regulators say certain deficiencies are no longer present. I'm Brendan Dixon.
CBS News correspondent Holly Williams on the Turkey-Syria border this morning says the UN inspection team is still evaluating whether or not Syria used chemical weapons last week against its own people in an attack on suburban areas of Damascus.
We don't know how long their work is going to take or when they'll release their results. And if they do find that chemicals were used, it's not their job to determine who used them.
Newly released videotape is a key footnote to presidential history. CBS's Steve Kathan has that story.
On the videotape, then President Gerald Ford described the failed attempt on his life in 1975 by Lynette Squeaky Fromm.
I saw a hand come through the crowd in the first row, but in the hand was a weapon.
The automatic pistol never went off, and Ford was not hurt. This is from video testimony Ford gave for Fromm's trial. A court cleared the way for it to go public. The Charles Manson disciple went to prison and was released in 2009. Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Food manufacturers, retailers, and farmers will be among the 400 people gathering in Raleigh today for a forum on proposed federal trade rules. The NC Agriculture Department's 9th Annual Commissioners Food Safety Forum in Raleigh. You're listening to NCN News.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Have you noticed that the Medicare summary notices you get in the mail or online have changed? If you don't read or understand your Medicare summary notices, you could unknowingly be paying for professional services or equipment you never received. The North Carolina Senior Medicare Patrol Program can help. Our free confidential services can help you identify and report suspected Medicare fraud, waste, and abuse. Learn more by visiting www.ncship.com. That's www.ncship.com. The North Carolina Senior Medicare Patrol Program, empowering seniors to prevent healthcare fraud.
The North Carolina Senior Medicare Patrol Program is a part of the North Carolina Department of Insurance and receives federal grant funding from the Administration for Community Living, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I'm Randy Owen. Join me each week as I play 5 decades of great country music and tell stories about a lot of my friends and heroes. Folks like Conway Twitty, Charlie Pride, George Jones, Dolly Parton, and of course Merle Haggard. We may even play some Alabama. Join me, Randy Owen, for Country Go.
Country Go with Randy Owen, Thursday afternoons from 1 to 5. Right here at Big O Country, 1390 AM WOHS, 1050 AM WLON, 1590 AM WCSL. Online at ktcbroadcasting.com. It's time to jump in. Jump in and cool off with a dip in your backyard pool. To help keep your pool sparkling clean all summer long, see Carolina Hardware Garden and Pool Center on the Reedfield Road in Lincoln. They carry a full line of BioGuard products. Plus, they'll analyze your water to make sure you get the right blend of BioGuard. And keep your yard looking great with the new Husqvarna Zero Turn tractor, push mower, or trimmer. Carolina Hardware and Garden Center on the Reachfield Road in Lincoln. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it's Mitchum's Kitchen in Vail. Now open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday. Try their all-you-can-eat pancake special. All you can eat for only $3.99 every day. And don't forget about the big Sunday lunch specials. Every day is a great day to eat at Mitchum's Kitchen in Vail. Open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Call 704-276-1155 for all of your catering needs, too.
He is the seasoned veteran of this Atlanta Braves squad. He's racked up almost 200 career wins and over 1,800 strikeouts.
The 1-2 pitch waved at and missed, and Hudson gets the strikeout. Swing and a miss struck him out, and he strands both runners.
He is Atlanta Braves pitcher Tim Hudson, and you'll only hear him play right here.
Atlanta Braves baseball right here at Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS, 1050 AM WLON, 1590 AM WCSL. Online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
Skies should range between mostly sunny and partly cloudy as we head through the day. It will turn a little more humid than yesterday, and we do have a slight chance of a thundershower late this afternoon or evening, mainly in northern parts of the state. Highs will reach about 85 to 90. Then tonight will be partly cloudy. Can't rule out an isolated thundershower or two with lows in the mid-60s to around 70. We'll call it partly to mostly cloudy on Wednesday. A better chance of showers and storms in the afternoon and evening. Highs tomorrow mid-80s north to low 90s south. I'm Mike Moss in the Weather Center.
Currently at the Big O Country Studios, it's 10:07, and the temperature is 65 degrees.
And now, a redneck chicken singing about wings, etc.
Well, if you're looking for a place to have an ice-cold beer and feed your face with the best dang jumbo chicken wings they are, then why not get your big old feathered butt up off the couch and haul it down to a restaurant called Wings, etc. Oh, Wings, etc. You'll like the way they fry and grill. Oh, Wings, etc. If you don't go, then who the hell will?
Wings, etc. founder Jim Weaver is at it again. From now through August 28th, he's selling wings for 49 cents, including boneless wings, dine-in only, and 34-ounce domestic schooners are just $3.99. 49-cent wings and domestic schooners for $3.99 through August 28th. Only at Wings, etc.
Oh, Wings, etc. Gotta get some. Gotta stop. Chicken time! Wings, etc. Delicious sports bar food.
Wings, etc. in Shelby at 1910 East Dixon Boulevard, just across from the Cleveland Mall.
And visit us online at wingsetc.com.
Need a contractor? One call will do it all when you call Hakoa Home Repair Network. The Hakoa contractors will show up. They will return your call. They are licensed and they are insured. From roofing to electrical, from plumbing to painting, to landscaping to carpentry and more. Here is the number to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 704-445-7365. Again, that's 704-445-7365. Again, one call does it all with Hakoa Home Repair Network, serving homeowners since 1993. Attention students and parents, it is time to look for that perfect class ring. And Wright's Jewelry in Boston has a large selection of both art carved and gold lance class rings. Priced from $149.95. Students may choose from a large selection of styles, stone choices, and side panel designs. All class rings have a lifetime warranty and free sizing is available. Show your school pride and spirit with a class ring for today's student. Your class ring headquarters, Wright's Jewelry, Highway 18 North in Falston.
Good morning. It's time now for the Community Profile program on WLON, WOHS, WCSL, and on the World Wide Web. You can watch the program and listen in at ktcbroadcasting.com. Milton Baker joined in the studio today by a good friend and good citizen of North Carolina and the local community, Mr. Dan Barefoot. Dan, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Great to be with you, Milton, as always.
And I'd like to say before we go on that Sandy Alexander couldn't be here today, but she will be back with us tomorrow, and we'll have Angela Paget in the studio tomorrow. But Dan Barefoot is here. Dan, you spoke recently to us in Krause at the Krause History and Photo Project meeting and spoke about Lincoln County's role in the Revolutionary War, and a great speech there. But we're going to talk a little different kind of history today, something we've touched on your books you've written, books about Revolutionary War history. You've written ghost story books about North Carolina and the
That's right.
East Coast.
About those.
How many books in all have you authored? 12 books.
12.
And I think some at the history
and
meeting.
They're all in print still,
right.
And you can get them Amazon, eBay, and bookstores. So.
Yeah, and they were very popular at the Krause meeting a few weeks ago, and so forth. We've talked over the years on the radio about a lot of things. But one thing, you had a topic today that intrigues me a lot because it's kind of what I do here at the radio. So it's music. It's music, and North Carolinians who have really made their mark in the music world.
A lot of people don't know North Carolina's musical heritage, but it's great in country, it's great in rock, it's great in almost any genre of the music area, you know.
And if anybody out there listening, Dan's willing to take some phone calls today. If you'd like to call Dan and ask him about a particular North Carolina artist that you know of, that you'd like maybe some more information, or you'd just like for us to touch base, because there's so many. When we started talking, Dan, we can make a list.
Absolutely.
How many pages long?
You start in Cherryville with Beau Trance, somebody who is living his dream. When he was a little boy, I have a picture on the computer. He was in a home band called the Bandits, and the police were chasing them. And now he has his band, the Fantastic Shakers, which on their truck has the Show Band of the South.
So,
and if you go to Shelby, you have the memories of Don Gibson, probably one of the greatest country music stars of all time. He wrote I Can't Stop Loving You, which has been recorded over 200 times by different artists, including Ray Charles. Roy Orbison, before he died, cut an album which is entitled Roy Orbison Sings Don Gibson. Don Gibson also wrote Sweet Dreams, which Patsy Cline recorded, and the name of the movie about Patsy Cline's life, which was out a few years ago, was named Sweet Dreams. And Don Gibson also wrote and sang and performed "Oh Lonesome Me." He was known as Nashville's sad poet, but he was born and started his musical career on WOHS and in Shelby, and he was born in Shelby, and he's buried in Shelby now.
Yes, he is. Yes, sure is. And the Don Gibson Theater bears the name. The theater bears the name Don Gibson, and they're bringing in a lot of very great talent. I ran into somebody just the other day in the parking lot of one of the local retail stores, and this young man and his wife, Darren and Brooke Aldridge. I don't know if you know much about the Aldridges there, Dan, but they are really talented. Darren is from in Cherryville. His wife from up in the mountains. She lives in this area now with Darren, and they are really making some great music too.
That's great.
But there's just so many. Ronnie Millsap, just Doc Watson. I mean, the list, and it's not just country music too.
That's absolutely.
Watch American Idol and listen to guys like Daughtry and some of those guys.
Clay Aiken
and
that sort of thing. You mentioned the mountains. I can't go without mentioning the Legend of the Brown Mountain Lights. Everybody heard it sung by Tommy Fail of Arthur Smith and the Cracker Jacks. That song was written by Scotty and Lulu Wiseman of Avery County, North Carolina. They were called the sweethearts of country music, and she served a term in the General Assembly. And also they wrote songs like Have I Told You That I Love You and things like that. But Tommy Fail is probably best known as for the Legend of the Brown Mountain Lights.
I love that song. And one of these days, I mean, it's not that far away to take a trip up there and just try to see the Brown.
Absolutely. A lot of people have.
I have never done that. One thing that has to do with North Carolina, maybe it wasn't made that most popular by a North Carolina group, but back in the 60s during the folk music era, the Kingston Trio did the Legend of Tom Dooley.
Absolutely. That's
a
North
Carolina
connection, the Legend of Tom Dooley. And it really, you might say, is Darrell Royal, the University of Texas brung the Kingston Trio to the dance, and made the Kingston Trio what they were.
But they didn't originally write that song. It was written by folks.
That's right. That's right.
I forget the gentleman's name. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
They popularized it, and the story of Tom Dula, or Dooley as the locals pronounced it. It's quite a story anyway. That's a history story in itself.
Absolutely. Tom Dooley was a musician in the Civil War. He fought in the division of Robert F. Hoke of Lincoln, and he came back a war veteran, and he was represented at the trial by Zebulon B. Vance, who became governor of North Carolina, who said that anybody who had fought in a gray uniform had to be represented. But Tom Dooley, anyway, the case went on appeal, but finally he met his fate at the end of a rope.
Yeah.
He held out his hands as he was being taken to the gallows and said, "Do these hands tremble? I'm not a liar. I did not kill Laura Foster."
Foster. Laura. Yeah, interesting. Well, we'd like to take phone calls from anybody. The phone's ringing here, Dan. I'm really not sure.
Okay.
We'll go out on a limb and see if they're calling to talk to us
Help
here.
you.
Oh, okay. They picked it up in the office, so we'll see. They'll send it back here if that's for us. But we'd like for folks to call in, 704-735-8071, 435-3297, or 482-1390 if you have any questions. We've talked about Shelby's Don Gibson. We've talked about there's many more. I mean, we only scratched the surface.
You mentioned Ronnie Millsap. That's an interesting story. Ronnie Millsap was born in western North Carolina, and his grandparents raised him at an early age, and he was almost blind when he was born. His eyeballs were taken out, and he was sent at the age of 5 to the Governor Moorhead School for the Blind in Raleigh, a state-supported school. They recognized early on his great musical abilities, and he was a violin virtuoso at 7 years old, and the rest is history. Ronnie Millsap is
always one of my all-time favorites there.
Absolutely.
You're calling to talk to Dan?
Yeah, I'm just calling you.
All right, hold on 1 second there, LD. Well, the other line hung up, so go ahead. I was going to put you on hold for just a second while I answered the other line, but they're gone. Well, Dan, can you hear LD on the phone? You know Mr. Schrantz?
No.
LD Schrantz from Lincolnton here with us. LD, what's your question for Dan?
Me and Darryl Harkey's good buddy.
Yeah, he's a friend of Darryl Harkey's, yeah.
I just wanted to call in. I got history books and stuff I can get from all around what they done. Well, I just want to tell you I appreciate hearing them on there this morning and listen to some of the things you had to say.
Oh, okay. All right. Any particular musical artist or anything like that you know of from North Carolina you'd like Dan to elaborate on a little bit?
Well, I'm not.
How about Arthur Smith and some of those?
Arthur Smith and the Cracker Jacks.
Arthur Smith and the Cracker Jacks. Arthur was born in South Carolina, but he calls Charlotte his home, and he has a recording studio. His sons run the recording studio now. But those people that go back to World War II will remember a great singer, Dick Hames. And Dick Hames came under some controversy because one parent was born in Argentina, and Dick Hames stayed out of service during World War II, and lots of people didn't take kindly to that. But the last album Dick Hames cut was in Charlotte, and it was recorded by Arthur Smith.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, LD. Appreciate you
That
calling
was
in.
great right there.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Take care, buddy. All right. Thank you, LD. Anybody else like to call in and just ask Dan any questions about any particular artist you know of, or just want him to elaborate on anyone? One that came to my mind when you started talking about Arthur Smith in the Charlotte area was Lunas McGlowan from North Carolina?
He was from Charlotte. He is really probably one of North Carolina's greatest treasures that passed. He wrote songs too, not only performed them, but he wrote the great jazz song, Blackberry Winter. And he came to Lincoln when we had North Carolina Is My Home done, and Charles Kuralt was here too, and the entire ensemble. And I will never forget that night. But Lunas was just a fabulous person, and his son worked in Lincoln County for a while as an educator.
Okay, that's right. Talking about North Carolina Is My Home with the Charles Kuralt and the work Lunas McGloindale, and that is just such a fantastic,
really is. It really
fantastic
is.
program.
Absolutely. And they even mentioned Cat Square when they were here.
Yeah.
But one country music star that we might mention that's been in the headlines, not for good reasons lately, but Randy Travis did very well recording. He also did motion pictures. He was in National Treasure, the second movie Randy Travis starred. It was
and
had
he's
a big role in that.
from Marshville, and
that's right.
Made the rounds. We talked a little bit yesterday about him with our guest yesterday, Bob Bigger, who's interviewed numerous country music stars over the years, and he talked about Randy and many people who worked in the radio business back in the 70s and 80s. They especially remember Randy and his then manager, later wife, Lib Hatcher, coming around to the stations promoting those records, trying to get him some airplay. I think we have another caller here. Did you want to talk to Dan on the air? Hello? Nope, they're gone. Let's try this line. Hey, did you want to talk to Dan Barefoot on the air?
No, I want to put something on Swap and Shop.
All right, Swap Shop ended at 10 o'clock, sir. I'm sorry. You'll have to call back tomorrow. That's one of the hazards of live radio.
That's right.
Flying without a net
We
here.
can talk about some early rock and roll that involves North Carolina. The first lead singer for the Drifters, and everybody knows who the Drifters under the boardwalk up on the roof, was Clyde McFadder. And he was from Durham, North Carolina. And another lead singer later for the Drifters was Benny King, the man who recorded Stand By Me. Benny King wrote There Goes My Baby for the Drifters and sang that song as a lead. Benny King was born in North Carolina.
How about that? Let's see. We got a caller coming in here. Did you want to talk to Dan on the air?
Yeah, enjoyed listening to Dan. Dan, your last name?
His name Barefoot.
Yes, sir.
Barefoot. Are you Indian?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I knew that sounded like I'm part Cherokee, so it sounded like an Indian name to me.
Yes, sir.
But, there were so many. Around Shelby here, we had the Constellations and different ones that put out some pretty good songs and everything back in the beach days in the 60s and everything. And I believe the man that wrote I'm Going to Kansas City.
Wilbert Harrison from Charlotte, North Carolina.
From Charlotte?
Yes, sir.
Well,
you hear that a lot.
Shelby.
Oh, he was Shelby. Okay.
Yeah. And I met him, knew him quite a bunch of his friends from here in Shelby. But I enjoyed this, and thank you for coming on and giving us some information.
Thank you very much.
And the Brown Mountain Lights we were talking about a few minutes ago with Tommy Fail. Back when my kids were like 11, 8, and 6, we were a bunch of us camping up there near those Brown Mountain Lights and went up there to see them.
Yes,
and
sir.
that was the talk for weeks after that, the way those lights come up those mountains and came down through there.
I'm going to just have to go. I'd love to see
You need to go. They used to be a big rock up there that everybody rode on and climbed on and watched it. They did away with the rock. They took and blew it up.
There's
and,
several places. There's several sites that you can see it, primarily in Burke County. I think.
Yeah, it is something else. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Appreciate that call. Let's see here. Are you calling to talk to Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Dan, do you live here in North Carolina?
Yes, sir. I live in Lincoln.
So, in other words, you're a local?
Yes, sir. Well, for a long time. Grew up in Gaston County, which originally was Lincoln County.
Yeah, now we're talking about the Brown Mountain Lights. They always said you could see them from up on top of the mountain. I ain't never seen them lights yet. They said they come on overnight.
I've not seen them either, but I've talked to people who have seen them, who have photographed them, and they say it's a chilling effect.
Okay. Did you? All right, sir. Anything else?
No, I believe that'd do me.
Okay, thanks, sir. Appreciate you calling in there.
Let's mention another North Carolinian, I think, that died last year was, and you have pictures of him in here, Andy Griffith.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Griffith.
He was very musical.
His theme song on his show was the old fishing hole. If people, that's the actual title of it. But Andy Griffith actually got his start at Chapel Hill while he was a student there, and he recorded for Colonial Records, and he recorded What It Was Football. I have that 45, we have it at home. You need to listen to What It Was Football. It's a funny record. And Andy Griffith did a lot of funny recordings. Yeah. And later in life, he recorded gospel songs.
Yeah, he did a great CD a few years back, and just awesome. It's very, very popular. And on the show, the Andy Griffith Show, very musical on the show.
Absolutely.
And the kind of, they sort of celebrated the mountain music.
That's right.
With the fictitious family, the Darlings, who actually, the boys were, who were they? They weren't the Darlings, but they were the, not Daltons, but it was something along that, I can't remember the name of the guys that were in the Darling family. They were actually a family band, I guess. Yeah. So he always celebrated North Carolina's that kind of music, that mountain music.
You mentioned earlier a name that we ought to mention who passed away recently, Doc Watson, the great mountain music man. He was born in Deep Gap, which is in Watauga County. My grandmother on my mother's side was born in Deep Gap, and her maiden name was Watson, so I'm just saying. So,
yeah, maybe some relation there. Okay, let's see. We got another caller coming in here. Did you want to talk to Dan?
Yes, I hate to call back, man, but I had something on my mind and forgot it.
All right, LD, what was on your mind?
Alabama.
Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
The band Alabama?
Yeah.
Do they have any ties to North Carolina, Dan, that you know of? I know South Carolina. They played at Myrtle Beach in South Carolina before they became famous, but I don't know of any direct ties to North Carolina. No. Nothing there, LD.
Well, they played Charlotte.
They played in Charlotte? Well, yeah, they I'm sure they did come to Charlotte, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, they used to play at the Bowery.
Bowery in Myrtle Beach, right. Yeah. So they have some Carolina ties to them there. Buddy, I got another call coming in.
See you, man.
Take care. All right. Hey, were you wanting to talk to Dan? Hello? No, don't believe they did. They don't believe they did.
Earlier today, you mentioned that Elvis died on your birthday.
Oh,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Elvis's ties to North Carolina. If you ever listen to his song, Promised Land, he will talk about taking a Greyhound through Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So he mentions Raleigh in the Promised Land, which was in Men in Black, I believe, if you saw that movie.
Okay. I believe Charlie Daniels.
Absolutely.
Wilmington.
Charlie Daniels is a very talented guy, and he grew up in eastern North Carolina, still calls Wilmington his home. And he was invited to speak at UNC Wilmington, and the president of the student body, I think, was not from here. He was a Yankee, and didn't think Charlie Daniels, since he didn't go to college, shouldn't be allowed to speak. And Charlie Daniels came back with a great speech anyway, and said, "When you've employed 20 people as long as I have, you will have arrived." And it is a great speech. And Charlie Daniels is featured in in a commercial now, you know.
Yeah. Well, we, like I say, the list just could go on and on, and I'm sure there's some that maybe we haven't touched on yet.
George Hamilton the Fourth,
yeah.
who now is extremely popular in Europe, not as popular today in America. He knows Arthur Smith very well and sings with Arthur Smith some, but he recorded in Chapel Hill on a Colonial Records label first, and then it was picked up. A Rose and a Baby Ruth, and that led to Abilene, and that led to the top 10. So George Hamilton IV was born in Winston-Salem and went to the University of North Carolina.
Yeah. A lot of, back in the day, as they say,
That's right.
a lot of George Hamilton IV sightings around Charlotte.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, we got a caller on the line. Did you call to talk to Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
And who wrote the song "The Knoxville Girl"?
Who wrote the song "The Knoxville Girl"? No. Do you have? You're looking for the answer to that question?
Yeah.
Okay. Who wrote it? Are you familiar at all with the song, Dan?
Not
really. Do you know who sang it? Or was it an instrumental, or was it a vocal performance?
Last album that I got on that was the Louvin Brothers.
The Louvin Brothers? Or is it Louvin?
Yeah.
Louvin? Charlie and something Louvin. All right. Well, maybe we can find out and let you know.
Okay. And then did Loretta Lynn ever come to North Carolina?
I don't know that.
Yeah. Don't know about any performances she might have done in North Carolina. Maybe she was born in, what was the name of it? Butcher Holler. Butcher Holler.
And she was sort of a protege of Patsy Cline.
Yeah.
You know, when
I was
Patsy
asking.
Cline
I was
died.
born and raised in Bristol, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I try to get all these old songs like that back at home.
Absolutely. Patsy Cline was a Virginian. She was born in Winchester, Virginia.
Okay.
But she was one of the first crossovers from country music to, popular music at that time.
We thank you for your call, sir. Okay, have a good day. All right. Well, just a lot of folks out there, Dan, have a lot of questions, and they love the country music, all genres of music. A lot of talented people from North Carolina.
Let me
no doubt.
mention one. You hear about a lot of one-hit wonders, but a top 10, a Billboard top 10 hit.
Mm-hmm.
You remember it is "Girl Watcher."
Oh yeah,
written by The Occasions.
The Occasions,
and they are from Wilson, North Carolina, born and they raised and still perform The Occasions. So that is a North Carolina connection.
Yeah,
they are
there you
a
go.
North Carolina band.
All right, so and a lot of that style of music now popular in what's called beach music,
Right.
Which, of course, South Carolina.
We have a lot of beach music around
Yeah.
here. The Embers grew up in Raleigh when Jackie Gore was with them. The Catalinas was a North Carolina band. The Band of Oz was a North Carolina band. And earlier when we mentioned Beau Strance and the Fantastic Shakers. So
we got lines ringing all over the place. Hold on just a moment, please. And are you calling to talk to Dan?
No, I'm calling to talk to Mom Milton.
Okay, sorry about that. Hang on a minute.
I'll call her cell phone.
Okay, all right. Hey, are you calling to talk to Dan?
Well, I'm calling to give you an answer on something, a question you just asked.
Okay.
About Loretta Lynn.
Uh-huh.
About appearing in North Carolina. She did. She sang at the Shelby City Park with the Wilburn Brothers in the early 60s because I emceed the show.
Oh, okay.
Who is this?
This is Charlie Cabinet,
I
my
thought
friend.
so, Charlie. Hey, Charlie.
I've
Charlie
been listening to you, and the Loretta Lynn came with the Wilburn Brothers. I think it's around 62, 63, somewhere along in there.
Okay.
But, so that answers the question about it. Did she ever appear in North Carolina? And there might have been other places, too. I don't know.
So, of course, you worked at WOHS in those days. And
Yep.
any other country or any kind of music, people that you can think of that maybe we've not talked about yet from the North Carolina.
I guess you probably talked about, and I just got in the car. I just left the church. I've been working there this morning, getting my music ready for tomorrow night's rehearsal, and I got in the car about 10 minutes ago. And I don't know, you probably covered Dale Reeves and, of course, Don Gibson and all these guys and Ronnie Millsaps, and I don't know who all you talked about.
Yeah.
And George Hamilton IV, you remember I brought a picture, when he and I had a picture made up at the Ryman Auditorium. But there's a good many came out of the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, George Hamilton IV started as, I guess, rock and roll and decided to go the other way, so... Yeah. He is a Winston-Salem native.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. Well, I appreciate you listening in. Stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Okay. Yeah, y'all are doing a fine job. Keep it up, buddy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Bye-bye.
Charlie Cabinets there from Shelby. Super
Bill,
guy
let's
there.
talk about big band music for a minute.
Yeah.
And Kay Kaiser.
Oh, yeah.
Kay Kaiser, born in Rocky Mount, made motion pictures, was one of the greatest big band leaders that you will ever know, arranged the music for the great UNC song Hark the Sound, and he did a number of songs like Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition during World War II and that sort of thing. So Kay Kaiser is a name to really remember, a native North Carolinian who was head cheerleader at UNC Chapel Hill.
One of the great recordings of a patriotic song. Kate Smith, was she from North Carolina?
No, she wasn't. She died in North Carolina.
Yeah, I thought she lived and died here. But she wasn't originally from North Carolina.
I don't think so.
Okay,
but she died in Raleigh.
Yeah, a lot of folks who became famous. Call North Carolina home as at some point in their life.
Another person that died recently in gospel music we might mention is George Beverly Shea.
Oh, yeah.
He lived on the same road that Billy Graham does now today, and George Beverly Shea is probably the most internationally known gospel musician there has ever been, and his voice is said to have been heard by, as many people that can hear a sung voice.
Yeah.
Bev Shea died at 104 years old.
Yeah, I believe he's right at 10 years older than Billy Graham.
Yeah.
So that makes Billy Graham about 94 then. Yeah. So he lived and died.
He was on the same road.
Yeah, I remember
in North Carolina.
All the Billy Graham crusades.
Absolutely. And Cliff Barrows, who was spokesman for Billy Graham, would always say before Dr. Graham delivers his message, "Here's George Beverly Shea."
Yeah, that's right. That was always the tradition there. Well, I'll tell you what, we've covered a lot of people, and Dan, for the folks listening on radio, Dan's doing this all off the top of his head. No notes, all the notes are in the computer up there, right, Dan?
That's right.
Yeah. So I've tried to sit here and think of folks, and like I say, some of them I don't know.
And when you think about it, though, you see that North Carolina has a great musical heritage.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe folks out there who don't want to call in, maybe a little shy about calling in, are probably thinking, "Oh, I wish they would say so and so. I wish they would say so and so." So I tell you what we'll do. Certainly, we'll have Dan back again to talk. I mean, we could just talk all kinds of history and other things with you, Dan. We've always had you come in around Halloween and talk about some of the stories in your ghost story books. Those are always very interesting. And again, Dan is lives in Lincolnton now. You retired as a lawyer.
That's right.
You authored numerous books. You still do public speaking. And just a long list of talents for Mr. Dan Barefoot.
Thank you, sir.
And
one other thing I want to mention, Milton, and my wife reminded me of symphony music. The North Carolina Symphony was the first state-supported symphony in the United States. the bill in the legislature was called the Horn Tootin' Bill. So
okay.
we have the first state-supported symphony.
Fantastic. All right. Well, folks, hope you've enjoyed the show. Dan and Kay, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
out
very
today.
much. Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Our guest today, Dan Barefoot, talking to us about just some of the legends in music of all phases, country, rock, etc., who were native to North Carolina or called North Carolina home at some point in their life. Very interesting program. Thanks to the folks listening in and calling in with your questions and comments. We appreciate it very much. And we'll be back tomorrow right here on these same stations and ktcbroadcasting.com. We'll return tomorrow, and Angela Padgett will be here from the Neal Senior Center in Shelby to update us on the September events at the Neal Senior Center. She comes along and talks with us every month to keep us updated on what's coming up over that way. So tune us in tomorrow, and Sandy Alexander will be back with us at that time as well. We'll see you then.